Welcome back to Kindness Stories, the place where real-life stories warm your heart and remind you that the world is still filled with goodness, courage, and compassion. If you believe in the power of small acts of kindness to make a big difference, you're in the right place. Take a deep breath, relax, and let this story inspire you to stand up for what's right and never lose faith in the goodness of people. It all started in a small town, the kind of place where everyone knows each other's business, but not always in a bad way. In this town lived a middle-aged woman named Helen Carter. Helen was a high school teacher, the kind of teacher who went the extra mile for her students, stayed after school to tutor struggling kids, and sometimes even spent her own money to buy books and supplies for those who couldn't afford them. Helen had always believed that education was more than just textbooks and exams. To her, it was about building character, nurturing empathy, and helping young people find their path in life. Her classroom was a safe haven for many kids who felt invisible everywhere else. But not everyone appreciated Helen's kindness and strict sense of fairness. In the same school, there was a group of students who called themselves the Kings. They were a tight-knit gang of boys from wealthy families who had grown up believing they were untouchable. They bullied other students, skipped classes, cheated on tests, and when any teacher dared to confront them, they found ways to make that teacher's life miserable. Helen, however, was not afraid of them. It began one ordinary Monday morning when Helen caught two of the Kings, Jason and Mike, cheating on a history exam. She calmly collected their papers, tore them in half in front of the whole class, and told them they'd get a 0 for the test. The class fell silent. No one had ever dared to embarrass the Kings before. Jason and Mike stared at Helen like they'd just been slapped. You're gonna regret that, old lady. Jason sneered as he slouched in his seat. Helen simply gave him that calm teacher stare that could make any child squirm and carried on with the lesson as if nothing had happened. After class, rumors flew down the halls like wildfire. The Kings had been humiliated. Something had to be done. Over the next few days, Helen's car tires were slashed twice. Someone smashed eggs on her front porch one evening. Another time, her garden fence was spray-painted with ugly insults. But Helen didn't back down. She reported every incident to the principal and the police. But nothing stuck. The Kings were always careful not to get caught. Then one Friday afternoon, Helen was walking home from the school, a stack of papers in her bag, her shoulders tired, but her mind calm. She had to cross the town square, which was usually bustling with people at that hour. But today, for some reason, it was eerily quiet. As she stepped into the square, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned, and there they were, Jason, Mike, and the other boys from the Kings. Well, if it isn't the hero teacher, Jason mocked. They surrounded her, their eyes glinting with mischief and cruelty. Helen stood her ground. I hope you boys have come to apologize, Helen said, her voice steady. Mike laughed. Apologize? Lady, you owe us an apology for making us look like fools. Now, you're gonna get on your knees right here, in front of everyone, and beg us for forgiveness. If you do that, we might leave you alone. Helen's heart pounded, but she refused to let them see her fear. She could see a few people on the far side of the square, looking over, but not daring to intervene. She knew the King's fathers were powerful men in town. No one wanted to get involved. You know what the problem with bullies is? Helen said, her voice calm, but sharp as a knife. You think fear is the same thing as respect. It's not. Jason shoved her hard. Kneel, old woman. Show us some respect. Helen stumbled backward but didn't fall. She looked at them, for boys, with expensive sneakers, brand-name hoodies, and empty eyes. She knew this was about more than just her. It was about every kid they had ever tormented, every teacher they had ever intimidated, every person scared to stand up. No, Helen said, quietly. I won't. Jason raised his hand to slap her, but before he could, someone shouted from behind. Hey, get away from her. The boys turned. It was Elijah, a shy, lanky kid from Helen's class. He was carrying his backpack and a skateboard, and his face was pale, but he didn't back down. What are you gonna do, huh? Jason snarled. Beat us with your skateboard. By now, a few more students had gathered. A couple of parents, some shopkeepers. They stood at a distance, unsure what to do, but the crowd was growing. Leave her alone. Elijah said again, louder this time. Asterisk another voice spoke up. This time it was Maria, a girl who had once found refuge in Helen's classroom when the Kings had spread nasty rumors about her. She stepped forward to, asterisk, you heard him? Leave her alone. Asterisk, Jason laughed, but something shifted. The Kings had never faced open defiance from the other kids. For years, their power had depended on fear and silence. Now, one by one, more students stepped closer, forming a circle around Helen. Asterisk, this isn't over. Jason hissed. He glared at Helen, then at the students. Come on, let's go. Asterisk, the Kings backed away, muttering threats, but their swagger was gone. They disappeared down the street, leaving Helen standing in the center of the square, surrounded by her students. Asterisk, are you okay, Miss Carter? Elijah asked, his voice trembling. Asterisk, Helen smiled at him, her eyes glistening. Yes, Elijah, I'm okay. Thanks to you, and you, Maria, and all of you. Asterisk, one of the shopkeepers, an elderly man named Mr. Patel, came over with a cup of tea from his cafe. He handed it to Helen, his hands shaking a little. You're a brave woman, Miss Carter. We should have stood up sooner. Asterisk, Helen took the tea, grateful for the warmth in more ways than one. Sometimes it just takes one person to stand up first, she said softly. The rest will follow. Asterisk, news of what happened spread fast. That evening, the story was all over social media. The teacher who stood up to the Kings, and the students who stood up for her. Parents, teachers, and townspeople who had kept their heads down for years suddenly found their voices. Complaints about the Kings poured into the school board and the police station. With so many witnesses and videos taken on phones, the boys' parents couldn't sweep it under the rug anymore. Asterisk, the next week, Jason, Mike, and the others were suspended indefinitely. Their parents tried to intimidate the school into reversing the decision, but the community had finally had enough. For the first time in a long while, the bullies had to face real consequences. Asterisk, Helen received dozens of letters from former students, parents, and strangers thanking her for her courage. But she always said the real heroes were the kids who stepped up that day, the ones who refused to be bystanders. Asterisk, in the months that followed, the school changed. The King's reign of fear was over. Teachers felt safer enforcing the rules. Students felt safer reporting bullying. A student-led kindness club was formed. Elijah and Maria were among the founding members. They organized peer support groups, tutoring programs, and kindness challenges that spread positivity throughout the school. Asterisk, Helen kept teaching, her spirit stronger than ever. She often said that standing up to cruelty is never easy, but it's always worth it, because when one person is brave enough to do what's right, it gives others permission to do the same.